So, hello, listener, and welcome once again to the Fitness Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Kay, and you're joining me the week after the weekend that was the World Championships in Nice. I am very happy to have back on the podcast. You listened to him last week, you're listening to him again this week. Firstly, from all the way in Canada, Dave Claxton, welcome back to the show.
I'm back, baby.
You are back indeed. And also, a little bit closer to home, we've got Emma Waring. Emma, thanks for joining us again.
Hi, Ian. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for coming back on. And I want to go straight away into controversy because the World Championships was fantastic, but there are some controversial moments that we will go through, as well as all the happy moments as well. But Emma, I'm going to turn to you for this. This was, for me, the biggest controversy of the weekend. Okay? You ready?
I'm ready.
James Muscat, J Fit, leading out Team Canada. What was going on?
Honestly, he's a traitor. I'm never speaking to him again, ever. I'm not speaking to Dave either because Dave has been a main protagonist in how this has happened. He's adopted him. He's turned him into a Canadian. I'm not having it. He's a Liverpudlian. He's UK.
Is this kind of like when you have a cat at home and it goes out and then the neighbor starts feeding it? Dave, is that what you've been doing? Have you been feeding James?
Yeah, nothing but Tim Hortons and double doubles. Like he's all good to go, right? Like he's running around, he's saying take off, hey yo hoser, he's good, like he's where he belongs. He's happy, We had to lure him over there with like the pretty girl and everything, and then but now once we got him here, he's all set.
Just been a whole plan.
Yeah,
it's a plan in the making for the
well,
past
we
4
needed
years.
somebody to carry that stick with the sign.
Honestly.
Unbelievable, Jay. Oh, absolutely unbelievable. Listener, go back and have a watch of the Parade of Nations to see Jay. The only thing I'm surprised at is he wasn't wearing his Mountie hat.
No, no, no. We got to get him one of those. He's got to pass the test first.
You just wait till he comes back to the UK. You just wait.
Oh dear. Right. So after the Parade of Nations, we'll probably go through this chronological. We went to the ladies' race, the ladies Elite 15. And I'm going to go to you first, Dave. Initially, as often happens, it was Meg and Lauren. And then we got to the carpets, didn't we? And what on earth happened at the sleds?
Yeah, it looked, I mean, could it be, a bad lane or whatever, but the sleds just hit Lauren hard. Like it definitely looked like it slowed her down comparatively, whereas, and maybe it was a case of it hit her hard. Maybe she went out a little too fast. I don't know. She always goes out quick, so that's to be expected. But yeah, Meg certainly capitalized on the sleds there. And, I mean, it happens sometimes. Meg is, you got to be incredible to keep ahead of her. And at that time, whatever the case may be, Lauren just wasn't able to maintain the lead there, and she really dropped off. I mean, really dropped off. That's why I think maybe, and we all know you can get a bad lane sometimes, and maybe that was the scenario. I don't know.
I did see pictures. I can't remember who shared it on Instagram, but pictures of the lanes afterwards, and one of the carpets looked a bit chewed up. Again, we don't know. We weren't there. In theory, all the lanes should be the same, but like you say, Dave, I think we even mentioned it on the commentary as well about having a bad lane sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't really know how you avoid that with the current setup. I've often been someone who suggested instead of having the carpet on the floor, actually putting carpet on the bottom of the sled so that they slide on the regular concrete floor or whatever the floor may be in the surface, and it'd be a little more consistent, I think. But when it comes to the sleds, I just don't think you can get perfect. You can't get it outside. I mean, we've seen it at CrossFit Games. One's in the shade, one's not. It's really tough, and sometimes you get a bad draw.
And sometimes you get a bad sled because these sleds wear out differently under track as well. Maybe you might be onto something. Maybe we shoe these sleds every event.
Yeah, I mean, that was something I thought I would try. And I mean, in gyms I've been before and worked at before, we put like sliders on the bottom of the sled when there's a concrete floor. That's to not damage the floor, and they move well and things like that. So it is a possibility, but right now with the equipment change they just went through, I don't see any changes coming.
I don't either. Emma, what do you think of the early parts of this race?
I just think it's a real shame that if Lauren, we will never know whether Lauren got a bad sled, a bad carpet on the sled. We'll never know because Lauren doesn't complain about things. She just gets her head down and gets on with it, and she won't come out on social media and say, "Hey, yeah, I've had it's not the result I wanted," or she wouldn't have said that if she came 15th or 14th because there's only four. She wouldn't have said it, so she'll never complain. I don't think. I think she's just very humble. All she did was think, I'm going to get my head down and get myself back in this race, and she did. So, um, we've seen elites previously that have had a bad lane. We've seen other athletes previously that have had a bad lane. They've dropped out. They've then called people out, called Hyrox out on social media. We just will never know how bad that lane was because Lauren will never say. So she did what she did was just inspirational. She got her head down. She thought, I can't do anything about this. I'm going to keep going and I'm going to make my race count. And she did.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely, and we'll get onto that shortly. And Emma, staying with you, we then had a situation where, of course, Meg coming out of the sled. I can't remember for sure, but she had maybe a minute lead, maybe a bit more. If you're Meg at that stage, what becomes your race plan?
Well, I don't know because I'm not Meg, but um, yeah, and she's had a pretty amazing weekend, doesn't she? I mean, if you're that person and the person that is your absolute nemesis has just taken so long, and you look back and you think she's still pushing the sled, you're thinking, right, I just need to keep going and just keep my rhythm, keep my pace, and just go for it and not look back. And I think that's what she did. And then the more she got through the race and the further ahead she was, the more confident she was. She was smiling, she was getting the crowd behind her and stuff. So, you become more and more confident, don't you? But you've still got to get through it and you've still got to cross the finish line ahead of everyone else. So the race is not over.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't just completely start walking or anything like that. But it's interesting looking at Meg's stats. I looked at earlier on in preparation for this podcast. The first four runs she did were faster than the last four runs. She definitely slowed down a little bit, which possibly happens, Dave, when no one's chasing you.
Yeah, and the thing with Meg is there are some people who like to run from behind. Maybe in that second, third spot, they like to be on the hunt. Meg, I think, is a person that when she gets out in front, all of a sudden she's more of a come get me, and and gets like Emma said, more and more confident and pushes harder and harder, and she's just like she gets more and more into her stride and starts to just maintain and roll that momentum, turn that momentum over and get run faster and harder to catch. So yeah, I think Meg is just when she's out front, she is, especially after the first by coming out of the sleds, if she's up front, she is so hard to catch because she starts feeling it. And her with her foot speed is so amazing. I mean, if you look at her stats, she actually had a rough push too. She had the seventh fastest push. But after that, fastest pull, fastest burpee broad jump, fastest row, fastest farmer carry, fastest sandbag lunge, and fastest wall ball. Like she just put it down. She got her lead and said, I'm gone, ladies.
She really did, like you say, she worked really hard on the stations and then used the run almost like a rest, which is what you can do when you are so far ahead of people.
Mhm. Yeah, you
It
don't
was
have
it wasn't much of a rest though, was it? She was still moving at the speed of light. But I think it obviously the world championship was the main goal for her because as she did the wall balls, you saw her, she didn't race over the finish line. She didn't charge through to try and get whatever seconds she could in terms of a world record or anything like that. She just took her time and took in every single moment. So it was really clear that the main goal was crossing that line first. It didn't matter what time it was she had to cross first. So yeah, it was good to watch.
I did kind of like how, even though she hadn't planned it, it was 59:59. So even when she'd taken it a little easy. She didn't take it that easy, but a little easier. She still got under an hour, which not long ago we didn't think would be possible for a women athlete. If you remember, Emma, when the women athletes were putting in 106s, 107s, the hour seemed almost unbelievable until it wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember when Megan first did her very first race in Hyrox and watching her do that extra lap. Do you remember, Dave?
Yeah, that was in New
Watching
York,
her do
wasn't it?
that extra lap, yeah, in New York. And I remember thinking to myself, because she didn't let that one extra lap phase her in any way. She just thought, I've got to move faster. And she cut down the time so massively on the person that was in front of her. I don't remember who that was now.
I believe it was
Um,
Alondra Greenlee, I think.
was it?
I think so.
Yeah, just I remember her just chasing her down. She was on the hunt. It was not going to stop her, the fact that she'd done that extra lap. And I remember writing on her Instagram at that point, congratulations. I think there may be a world champion at some point in you if you found your sport, something like that. I would have to find it, but it was just so obvious at that point that she would be a contender. And Lauren and Megan have just pushed each other, pushed each other, and pushed each other, and they brought everyone else with them
They
along the
really
way.
have. And before we move on from there, can we just say how amazing it was that her daughter was the you both have kids on the call. You both probably really resonated with her being able to share that experience.
Yeah, I mean, having competed alongside my son before and actually against him in certain competitions, it's always fun to have them around. It's great. And I mean, I used to go and watch my daughter compete in cheerleading tons of times, and it brings a whole aspect for it. But when you as a parent are out there giving it your all and your kids can appreciate and see the effort level that you put in and the exactly what it takes out of you and to learn from that, it's amazing. And I mean, all of those all the women who race there and all the men who race there whose children get to see this are going to be able to learn from it and just be so proud of their parents and say, like my parents are badass.
I know you've had similar experiences, haven't you?
Yeah, so I think I've gone through the stages, I think. So Evie and Maddie have sat and watched me play hockey on the sidelines in their pushchairs. And then when I gave up playing hockey, they've then watched me doing obstacle course racing, and then that filtered into their world. And they've done obstacle course racing, and Evie's done Hyrox and been an ambassador, but that's not the most important thing about it. The most important thing is that they get to learn what it takes to experience disappointment and pick themselves up from that and find another way forward, and they learn to become resilient through sport. That's the most important thing, and it's learned behavior. If they watch you doing something, they follow. In general, they follow, and you inspire them as a parent. And Meg's daughter Mia is going to go away thinking, look what you can achieve if you work hard. My mum's up at this time in the morning, she does this many training sessions a day. She'll see all the hard work that goes on behind all of that victory that everybody sees on the night or at the race. She'll see what it's like to be transported from one gym to another and to fit things in around a working environment and stuff. And she'll just know exactly how hard her mum has worked to get what she wanted. And it's not about just sport. She'll grow up knowing that if she wants something, she's got to work hard for it and be resilient and suffer disappointment and injury or setbacks in some way. And you pick yourself up and you carry on going. That's the best thing about sport.
Really is. It transcends generations. And you mentioned resilience there. Let's talk a little bit now about the chasing pack, because once Meg had pretty much had it nailed on that she was winning, the rest of the race was incredibly exciting when it came to second place and beyond. Dave, do you want to pick up at this? How many lead changes did we see for second place?
Oh, it was crazy. And like when we mentioned Lauren, I mean, Lauren, she was out of it. She was gone. She was not involved. And then all of a sudden, there she was, just slowly plucking away, getting back into the race in Lauren's typical never die fashion. It was amazing. And then Vivian Tafuto, Viola, and Linda Meyer all just fighting back and forth like crazy. By the way, way to go, Vivian, no longer number 4. Um, like just you didn't know. You didn't know. We knew Meg after a certain time. It was Meg's race to lose, and something bad would really have to happen. But beyond that, the next 4 spots, it was a roll of the dice. It was who's going to get a no rep. It was who's going to slip, who's going to have to take an extra second on the break. You had no idea, and it just made for probably one of the most exciting races of all time in Hyrox. It was fantastic.
It really, really was. And you mentioned Vivian and Linda and Viola. They all hit the wall balls almost within seconds of each other. And then Lauren, who hadn't really been on screen that much because she'd fallen behind so much, just kind of entered a little bit later. And we had this epic wall ball off, didn't we, Emma?
I knew you'd come to me about the war balls. Don't, honestly, I still have watched that video over and over again, but we'll come to that in a moment. But yeah, she did, and I think she got Lauren put in a time of 3:28 on those wall balls. She came second to Meg in the
Mhm.
wall balls. She absolutely powered through them. And if you look back at Lauren's other stations, so that sled pull, she was 13th, then all the way through the stations, like you normally see a dominance of Lauren, particularly in like the burpee broad jumps. That's one of her fastest stations. Um, she hasn't come second. Like Meg's won everything on the stations
Yeah.
and ran fast as well, but she hasn't come second. She's been in recovery mode for a period of time after that sled incident. And she's come 5th on the row, 4th on the farmer's carry, 6th on the sandbag lunges, normally a really strong station for Lauren, and then comes in. Her run times are slightly less than what they normally are, slightly more than what they normally are, sorry. But each time she's consistently picking off people as she goes, comes into the wall balls and cracks out a 3:28 of 100 wall balls. Incredible. Yeah. But it was very tense to watch for various other reasons.
Oh yeah, go and do it. Come on, do it. It's time.
Why would you use technology on wall balls in a world championship race that has been used twice previously? And not only is it been used twice previously, the judges, so if they'd have used it a whole season, that technology, a whole season of Hyrox, and then used it in the world championships, there would have been judges that would have used that technology and known how to use it. It's poor planning. And in a world championship race where it depends, I know we have discrepancies with people saying, oh, they didn't break parallel on the wall balls and calling the judge out, but the judge is in the best place possible to see whether or not that person has hit below parallel. But they're still judging that part of the wall ball anyway. They're still judging it and marking it on their iPad. Why have we got a situation where the racers, for one, are not used to using it? The elite racers, they're not used to using that technology. The judges are not used to using that technology. And then you hear, oh, it's been tested and tested and tested. No, it hasn't. They could have tested it 100 times in France. They could have tested it, but it still wouldn't have been good enough because it should have been used all season, and the judges should have been experienced with it, and the racers should have been experienced with it. Because what happened on Friday night was inexcusable. It should never have happened to any of those girls, any of them.
Listeners, to bring you up to date, if you haven't watched it, we did have these screens in operation. I have reached out to Hyrox, and I will confirm a couple of things that perhaps we weren't aware of at the time watching. One thing to be aware of was the fact that although the screens were registering, the judge kept the count. So the judge was responsible for putting a no rep due to lack of depth, and also crucially, a no rep if they judged that the ball hadn't hit the center of the target. So they had the power to have that no rep. What we saw, listener, at the end of the women's wall balls is when basically Vivian, Lauren, and Viola were all throwing their final wall ball at practically the same time. we had a no rep for Viola, we had a no rep for Vivian, and a rep for Lauren. All the ladies left their station and crossed the line, being pursued by judges, shall we say, trying to bring them back. It made for a chaotic end.
And they brought the wrong two people back. Let's
Yeah.
not forget that little mistake. They brought
Yeah,
Lauren and Viola back,
they
not
brought
Viola and Vivian.
they brought the wrong two people back. There's a little bit on the athletes here because the rules were that you had to be released by your judge. But on the other hand, it's very, very, very hard if you've thrown your last wall ball and you know because you can see where everyone else is. Would you wait a second? I'd just go.
The one problem too
But
is the screens on the last reps
yeah,
flash to 100
flashed 100
and then go back
and
to
then
99.
delayed. Yeah, then
Yeah.
it delayed, dropped down to 99 and it delayed 100 red behind. I've watched it so many
Yeah,
times.
and
So
I
many
would be the same.
times.
I'd be like, if I'm looking at that thing, the minute it flashes
It's
100,
gone
I'm
to 100.
gone.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's it's like a drag race, right? As soon as that light flicks green, that's it. You're not looking at it
yeah.
anymore to see if it goes another color. You're gone.
Yeah,
It's
and to
familiarity as well. You
Yeah.
know, if going back to what I said about if it had been used all the way through the season and then at the World Championships, the athletes would have been familiar. And this kind of situation could have happened in a pro race or a majors race, and they would never let it happen again. And also the congestion that they were having to run through the inside of the rig. Where's the clear route out to
Mhm.
get to the finish line? So yeah, I'm very frustrated about the whole thing, as you can possibly tell.
no,
The
no, that sorry,
the
Dave, carry
that's
on.
okay. The issue, and I'm 100% on board with the ammo here. I agree completely. The issue I had with it as soon as I saw they were using it, and they say, well, it's tested, it's tested, it's tested. It is, but the problem is every test that I've seen with it, there have been complaints. So
Yeah,
clearly it's not up to snuff yet. And let's be honest, the problems we've had with wall balls has not been hitting the target. It's been the depth on the squat. That's the one they need to fix,
yeah,
not hitting the target. So what if you took all that money you spent on that fancy system and paid some judges that were really good, high quality judges to watch your wall balls and watch your depth? I just think I agree they brought it in too fast. Maybe it's a good idea for the future. It's also way too finicky on that center of the target. I mean, those I watched Vivian's and Viola's last two reps as many times as I could, and I don't see it. Like maybe they went too high. And again, I hate that it went too high and you're getting called. It should just be a line and you're over the line, you're good, you're below the line. I hate this finicky little hit a dime size spot in the middle of the target. I'm not a fan. Oh, hold on here. Should we give an automatic penalty crossing the finish line with one outstanding,
no rep.
with no one outstanding, no rep? All right. So Rye's just saying, should we get a penalty for crossing the line with one outstanding no rep? And I think there is that case, and I think that is what ended up happening. But yeah, I don't like the automated machine. And the other thing I had question about it is, yes, they were able to add a no rep if the machine counted a rep, but were they able to override the other way and say, no, the machine is wrong and that rep should have counted?
Yeah,
That I don't know about. Having looked at the system, it was in London when I was doing it at the wall balls. The system I saw was a straight you hit this button if it's a no rep. We should perhaps clarify that the information I got from Hyrox, because we reached out to them, was in respect to Viola's rep, because that was a little bit more controversial. The judge adjudicated that her ball made contact at the bottom part of the target first, and it was the judge who removed the rep. So that's why it went to 100 and then back down. That is what I've heard from Hyrox. This is what they're saying. The angle we have, we don't know because it's from behind. So we do not have the same look that the judge has. Being fair, we do not have the same look. And I've always been, I'll trust the judge. So
I trust the
if
judge. I
that,
don't trust Hyrox. So honestly,
yeah. Me too.
if that judge hit a no rep on that keyboard, he should be a sleight of hand magician on the street making money busking because there is
Yeah,
no way his finger come near that tablet after that. And you can see it. He would have to be a quick draw gunslinger from the West in order to make that happen. And you know what? I know.
absolutely.
Hyrox can get mad at me. That's fine. I cry. I love Hyrox. They whatever. It's fine. But yeah, there's no way. There's no way he did it. Watch the video. It doesn't lie.
I've watched it so many times, and I've spoken to the team that were there, like Team ISO members that were there. They saw it all happen. I've got videos of it happening and unfolding, that, everything, as well as the TV screen on YouTube, which I don't take much notice of because that is a different angle. But I've got videos, and I can say, we're talking about the technology taking away the decision making of the judges, but all that technology is doing at the moment is adding to their workload during those decision making times, and they can make the wrong decision. And to say that was a no rep, from where I've seen it in the different angles, and I wasn't there, I wasn't in Nice, I fully admit that. But how that can be a no rep, I do not know. And how that then changed from 100 to 99 so quickly is just beyond me, because it said 100, then flashed red, then she went flashed red and dropped to 99, and she'd gone. So she should have checked. She should have been given the permission. But how can that judge, who's checking whether she's hit parallel, checking whether the ball's hit the center of the target, messing about with an iPad, and then making sure that reflex of, oh, in my brain that has not hit the target, now I've got to mark it on my iPad. Viola's gone. These are fast women, you know. It needs to be looked at, and it cost somebody a second or third place on the podium, whose goal right at the start of the season was to get a podium at the World Championships. And she's worked so hard for it, like everyone else in that group has. It cost her, and it put Vivian in a very difficult position. And then they came and brought Lauren back to do an extra rep, and it wasn't Lauren, it was Vivian. And we're like, what's going on here, guys? Sort it out.
I should also jump in at this point and clarify, in the end, as angry as we are because it made for a chaotic finish, it didn't actually matter, because Viola was carrying a 3-second penalty from the ski and she crossed the line with Lauren. Vivian was 2 seconds behind her. So even if all the reps had been good, it would have
She'd got
still
a 3-second
been,
penalty.
and she would still be in fourth place. So in the end, it looked terrible from a watching point of view, but in the end, it would have been the same top four. It was
Hopefully that's the case. Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case.
And I mean, really, we can never know, right? That's one of those things you can throw out. So hopefully that's the case. And I think maybe it's time to start talking about. And we were, and I was one of the people applauding judges previously. And I think it was Kate Davey at the one time when she ran across, had to do one, and then the judge went and got her and brought her back. Maybe it's time that we say to the judges and say to Hyrox, okay, we don't want these judges running and chasing people anymore. Just hit them with a 5-second, 3-second, whatever penalty is for that last rep that they didn't get for one outstanding rep. Hit them with that penalty, and that's it. And that way we're not having judges and that was one of the problems, was you had like 3 judges storming the stage and other racers trying to get there. It too much chaos, and that can affect the race. So maybe it's time to just institute that penalty and say, judges, stop chasing people.
Right, I've got a couple of points actually on the wall balls that I want to cover off before we go for a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the men's race. But you mentioned it earlier about how chaotic it is. Nick Bowerman from the Discord reached out to me and said, should there be a dedicated leaving or departure lane in the wall balls that is kept clear for the athletes at all points, so they know that when they throw their last one, they should cross the finish line, either if it's behind them or if it's under the rig? What say you, Dave?
Oh yeah, there should absolutely be a clear path for them to run. Like, they shouldn't have to worry about judges being in the way. They shouldn't have to worry about camera people being in the way. Those people need to be there, but they need to have their own designated spots. And that way the athletes have a clear lane to run and they don't have to worry about that stuff. And part of that right now lies on judges knowing correct positioning and what positioning they should be in. And part of that lies as well with the camera people and the videographers and all the Instagram people knowing where they should be to stay out of the way. And there's an art to it. There's definitely a way to do it. So yeah, maybe they need to mark out that path and just say, everybody stay the hell off that path.
Yeah. Emma, would you agree?
Yeah, I'm with Dave. And when you give them instruction as to where they've got to go to exit the race, they get instruction everywhere else in the race. You know, you've got to stay in between the lines on this, you've got to do that, you've got to do the other. This is the burpee broad jump area. This is, all of those instructions, but there's nothing for finishing the race. And it just results in carnage. One thing I do want to say though is how amazing those women were in dealing with that. They were amazing. Their Instagram stuff afterwards, the way they dealt with it on the evening, the interview with Vivian, and I just thought, what professionals. They were brilliant.
What great role models they were.
Yeah.
I fully agree. And yeah, it may be the case that they worked out what we'd said there, that it didn't ultimately matter, but it nevertheless, it was your final memory was for most of them being chased over the line by a judge, which isn't a very nice memory to have on an Elite 15 race and the confusion. I will say, actually, can we shout out? I believe it was Hyrox. I want to give a shout out to Mo. I believe my sources said Mo was someone who stepped in there and basically said, right, this is what we're going to do. It'll be a penalty, 5 second penalty for the missed wall ball, and that's how we're sorting it out. Because there was a lot of confusion, and Hyrox did get it sorted out quite quickly despite the confusion. What do you reckon?
I do like the quick sort out. However, this is something that should have been in the rule book beforehand and something that should have been
Good
easily
point.
pegged before. And that's, I mean, we've personally, we've hung deck out to dry for this before where they did not think of rules or did not think of penalties in the time very recently. And Hyrox should have thought of the same thing, like especially on that last zone when everybody's hauling for the finish line. There's always got to be that last rep. What do we do if they don't get that last rep and they cross the line? And especially when it's a timing chip based thing and you can't take it back. It's one thing if there's no timing chip and it's like, who crosses the line first, then they can come hey, you're not done. You got to come back and finish. Then you cross the line and that's where you're at. This is different. So yeah, that is something that should have been thought of with foresight and not decided. And I don't disagree with the way he decided. I think that's fine. It just should have been done before.
Absolutely. If it wasn't Mo, then well done to whoever made that decision. My source was that it was Mo who was right there and sorted it out. Talking about the wall balls again, this move to the technology. Dave, I'm going to give a shout out to Matt Shaw to Hybrid Fitness Media because you were on there recently with Anthony and of course Matt and two other Matts, and I was listening to it before the World, and you were talking about the mass market appeal of Hyrox and how Hyrox is aiming for this mass market. Over the weekend, we have seen a lot of no reps by the technology. And like you say, it's very pernickety. It's this dime technology. What will happen if they don't make a few changes to this and you're going to end up with people who are currently coming in 2 hours who can't actually get past the wall balls?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's an era we've had it and we've seen it tons of times where, and I even saw a little bit out of Worlds, and that's okay, I'll shake it off, but where some people can't come to depth and they just kind of let it slide as they're like 2 hours, they're far back, they're not competing, they're just trying to finish for themselves. They normally bring out the bucket, whatever it is, what it is. And what he's talking about is why I have video of people where they brought out the bucket and they still don't sit to the bucket. But anyway, um, I don't know because that's where it goes back. If they can override the system and say, yeah, it's a good rep if they're not hitting the middle. So, and should they be able to? It
Yeah, I
becomes,
think I was just going to say that actually, Dave. Is there a place for people at the World Championships actually competing at the World Championships where they use the bucket? I don't think there should be. If you can't hit depth, you shouldn't be at the World Championships because you're not complying with the movement standards.
yeah, I'm good
If
with that.
you're in a race and you have to have the bucket, you don't podium and you don't qualify for Worlds, you've completed it and you've been able to participate. But if you can't comply with the movement standards, you don't qualify and you don't podium.
Some of
It's
these, some of these people are getting to Worlds and this is where I
on a
sort of said
bucket.
it before, not just the bucket, but just not doing good reps and being
Yeah,
allowed away with it. And then they get to Worlds and all of a sudden, wait, this person can't do good reps. Well, of course they can't. They've never had to. right? They have not been held to that standard. And that's where I've been, and I always have Tara Jackson as my biggest backer on this of, I don't like the bucket, but I would like a lower box where everybody just sits to that box and then hits the wall ball. And then nothing is, you don't, as long they hit it, they hit it, they hit it, they hit it. It's way easier to judge.
Yeah.
That would probably be a perfect way of doing it. And actually, I'll give a shout out to Nuclear Fit because they don't do wall balls, but they do a version which is a squat followed by a full extension. And they have a bench that everyone sits in, and then you've got to lock out the arms and go back and forth. And I don't think they've ever had controversy with that because it is what it says it will be. Emma, what do you think about this potential that if Hyrox don't change the current system, which seems incredibly pernickety, I'm going to use the word pernickety when it comes to hitting the target. Not the best use of language, listeners, so forgive me. What's going to happen with someone like myself, who isn't the best when it comes to hitting the target? And the judge is just going to have to sit there and hope that 100 of my wall balls out of possibly 300 hit that small 1p piece in the middle.
It's a tough one because I'm all about inclusivity. I'm all about everybody getting an opportunity to do something that they're proud of. And for a lot of people, doing a Hyrox race is something that they're really proud of, that a lot of people just want it for an Instagram photo profile. But I genuinely would not want anyone to feel excluded. And that's why I think the technology side of it. Can we look at? I know we're not going to the men's race yet, but Alexander Ronkovic got a number of no reps on Friday night. You cannot tell me that that guy who has done all these races across all this time and is probably one of the most experienced racers in the field, got more than 10 no reps in his 100 wall balls. Just there's something when you look at technology and you look at probability and the statistics and the data that come from that, the probability of him getting 11, 12, 13 no reps, however many it was that he got, just wouldn't happen. That surely it's got to be wrong. So when you're getting somebody that's struggling or maybe an adaptive athlete, I know they might be thinking of other things with adaptives later on, but I think there should be maybe the open waves are distinguished between pro and so that people that are doing pro qualify for the worlds, and if you do pro you are a pro, you have to do those movement standards to pro level, as in be compliant in every respect. You don't get a bucket and you use the technology for the wall balls. But then in the open races, it's different because it's everybody having a go. And then maybe we just wouldn't get all these complaints about, oh, he qualified for worlds and he didn't do his burpees right, or he qualified for worlds and he got God knows how many no reps. It's just there needs to be some, as it's got more and more popular, it still has to be a sport for everyone. But being for everybody means that they have to make those distinguished cut off between who's pro, who's just participating, competers and completers.
I mean, and you
No,
you could
that's
you could do that where you could have, and quite frankly, not change a single thing except you're on your registrations having competitive and scaled.
Yeah,
And if you're in the
yeah,
scaled, you're there for fun, you're there to do it. If you can't make it, the judges decide, they can give you leeway, right? If you're in the competitive, no, you do it to standard or you're done, you know.
yeah.
And they wouldn't have to change anything
that's
except how you sign up.
that makes a lot of sense. And you could even have that being the pro and the open distinguishment. That open isn't, you might have to increase the number of pro waves because at the moment there's not that many, and that would hopefully see a increase in pro waves. We'd also have to deal with the current issue that anyone over 60 can't do a pro wave. But these are minor things that can be looked at. But Dave, again, getting back to that HFM podcast that you did, there were chats about when it comes to hitting depth, if you're not repping someone and they have a miserable time, and that's my fear with this technology, that it will lead to someone having a miserable time. I don't discount the fact that Hyrox will look at the data, they'll go away and they'll probably make it better come next season. But that's my worry, is that people are going to have a miserable time.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get a race, if you can't finish the race and you've paid, let's frankly say, a lot of money to pay to do the race, and then most of these races are in very, they're expensive places to go to. So you're shelling out a lot to go to it in travel and cost. And if you can't finish the race and you're just someone having a good time or going to have a good time, you're probably not going to come back. So I see what you're saying, and that's why I say you could still leave the pro wave and the open wave just as they are, pro weights, open weights. That's fine. But just when you sign up, you just sign up as in competitive or scaled, and that'll give you a different color band, whatever, different number on your arm, whatever, however they want to mark it. And that just lets the judge know that when you're there, if you're scaled and you're struggling, the standard's different, away you go. And if you're pro, or sorry, if you're competitive, whether you're an open or pro, then you got to be held to standards. The one thing, and again, this is from Ra here, if I take 2 hours to finish, right, or 3 hours to finish, I still want to know I finished to standard. And that
Yeah.
way I know I improve next time. So there's that thing. You knows where you rank amongst your peers as well too, because you know everybody had to do it. And that's the problem. If you do the scaled thing, you might as well not keep time and just let people keep their own time. Because then they're just doing whatever they do and it doesn't matter. And you run those people whenever you feel like end of the day or beginning of the day, whenever you feel appropriate.
That makes a
Yeah,
lot of
and
sense.
from a business point of view, if you look at it from a Hyrox point of view, the same as with an OCR back in the day, the completers, the mass participation people are those people that are funding everything that happened this weekend. I know people pay for the races, obviously, but the scale and the amount of people coming through, that those people are funding, whether it's directly or they're then attracting sponsorship to be able to pay prize money because they've got X amount of participants and the social media value goes up. So they need the mass participation people. They can't be in a situation where they're putting any of those people off in any way, because that allows them to do what they want to do with the elites and with the pro racers, indirectly or directly. But then there needs to be a solution.
That does. And what has marked Hyrox out from Spartan and some others is that they do constantly look at feedback. They do make improvements. Emma, Dave, and myself, we've had constructive criticism of Hyrox over the years, and usually they take it on board. They're always listening, they're always watching, and they do make improvements. So let's see how they do with this latest project in bringing on technology. Right, we're going to leave it there. We'll come back after a short break and we'll go right into the Elite 15 men's race. So join us right after this. So, listener, welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the women's race, which was won by Meg. Let's talk about the men's race as well, because this was an interesting one for other reasons. Emma, it might have been you who brought to my attention that there were murmurings amongst some of the male athletes pre the race that they were going to take the race to the world champ. It's that whole thing of if you're coming at the king, you best not miss, and that's a terrible, terrible impression by me. But were you surprised at how quickly this race started?
No, no, I was not surprised at all. Because I mean, can I just first of all say that I think how Hunter has dealt with his dethroning has been amazing. It's just, handing over the torch and to Alexander, who I'm so happy for winning. But at the same time, the way that Hunter has dealt with it on social media, I think has been impeccable, or from what I've seen anyway. Just really humble and talking about everything. So, but no, I was not surprised at all, because if you're going to beat somebody like Hunter, you can't go it alone. You need a team of people to take Hunter McIntyre down. It's like, that's exactly what they did. It's like a pack. They worked in a pack and they ground him. It was very good to watch. Not Hunter being taken down, I don't mean that, but I mean in terms of how the race unfolded. Yeah, it was great to watch.
Dave, before the break, you were talking about how Meg is one of those athletes that when she gets ahead, she gets into a rhythm and she just extends a lead. Hunter has always been one of those athletes. So do you reckon not being able to do that really threw him off his game?
Yeah, well, I think we said it before, or I've said it somewhere before, or someone else has said it before, where Hunter has never won a race where he wasn't leading after the sleds. And what I think what Emma said is true, and especially with Sandy and Alex, where they just kept hitting Hunter with like a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. If one of them wasn't pushing him, the other one was,
Yeah.
and there was no rest. They weren't going to give him a break, and whether that was the two of them doing it together, I don't know if it was a plan or not, but it was executed like it was, and it was executed brilliantly. Where they just were like, "You're not going to be able to lead. We're not going to let you have that lead. Either he's going to take it or I'm going to take it, but you're not going to have it." And it was just it was really well done. We had said before that it is possible that Hunter could be beat this time, and it showed up that he was. But the guys did it super smart. And by the way, so before we get any further, Sandy, way to go.
Sandy the athlete turned up,
Sandy
Dave.
the athlete turned up and he did what everybody hoped he could do, and he was fantastic and great and awesome. And even if he still hates me, I don't know if he ever hated me, but if he still hates me for it, I don't care because I'm really happy for him. And that was really great. But and Alex, oh, nobody more
I
deserves.
know.
Like just as far as ambassadors for the sport goes, and you can say the same for Meg. As far as ambassadors for the sport go, the guy is just flawless. He's been there from the beginning. He has lived and breathed this. It just, yeah, he's the guy you want as a champion. He's just great. And I do
And
agree with you with
still with a
Hunter.
full-time job.
Yeah,
Full-time job.
yeah, yeah. I do agree with you with Hunter. He has handled this well, and I've often been a much bigger fan of Hunter when he's not leading.
Can we also shout out and give him more flowers if that's at all possible? Because I'm not sure if other elite athletes did this, but Alex made sure he attended the Walk On of Nations with Team Austria because his view was they were all one big massive team. So again, I'm not sure which other
Yeah.
athletes did that, and it's personal choice, but well done to Alex for doing that.
Yeah, I didn't notice anyone else, but I can't say for sure there was or wasn't. But yeah, he just seems like class all the way.
And unlike Jay Fit, Alex is actually from Austria.
Yeah. That we JFit is no longer in the UK.
He's a colonist.
Yeah.
But I'm
I
gonna
love you,
shout out to
Jay.
I'm going to shout out Lisa Martin on the Hyrox group now, who mentioned she'd listened to our podcast after the event on her long run as normal, and it was fab entertainment as the Elite 15 has been and gone. And she said some choices vindicated and some were not. I'm going to avoid being super smug here, but I am going to say I reckon she's talking about my Sandy pick.
Okay, okay,
So thank you, Lisa, for that.
hold on. Just wait, just wait, just wait. So
Yeah,
that's
just hold the
the
line.
thing is, if let's just say for football, if you pick the Patriots long enough, year after year after year after year after year, eventually you're going to be right. It's a matter of odds. Anyway, I'm glad you were right. We're all glad you were right.
No, well done to Sandy and to Alex and the rest of the racers. But let's get into the race a little bit more. Again, let's pick it up with Sandy because he had a moment earlier on in the race which probably proved how he'd matured and how he was going to take on this race because the old Sandy would have reacted a lot different. There were flashes of the old Sandy in this, but the old Sandy would have reacted a lot differently when it came to the sled pull. Who wants to take this?
I
Uh,
think Dave should take this because Dave had a lot to say. He's Dave's celebrating Sandy the athlete coming of age here.
so this, and I think Ian probably brought this up for a reason. So, first off, Sandy got a penalty for stepping back on the line twice, and he did deserve the penalty. It was you could see on the bottom of the screen that he crossed the line twice. Um, he handled it better than he would have in the past. I'm still questioning exactly how well he handled it. Doing a little lip reading and stuff
Yes.
as you close in. Quite frankly, and if he said what he said and I was that judge, I would have doubled the penalty.
Yeah.
And if he did it again, I would have tripled it. And if he did it again, you would have been gone.
I,
And
I don't think there's any excuse to swear at a judge.
no,
If my lip reading read the same as your reading did, Dave,
no,
that never ever should a judge be spoken to like that. And that judge was amazing.
yeah,
First of all, for picking it up. Secondly, for dealing with it the way he dealt with it. I thought it was brilliant. And he was a young lad. He
yeah.
was a young lad. He wasn't somebody. It wasn't a Jacob or Mintra on the line. It was a young boy, and he dealt with it amazing. So I'm with you on that. Sorry for butting in.
I lip read myself, and he clearly said Man United.
Man
I'm
He
United.
never
fairly
did.
sure
Stop.
that's.
Oh my God, you need your eyes testing.
This guy's a
No,
lawyer, right?
I'm not. I'm not sure exactly what he said. In his defense, I have been equally as frustrated. This is not a defense nor an excuse, although it come across like it. And I don't think he directed it at the judge. I think he directed it at the moment. But again, we'll never know. It is similar to what we said earlier, Emma. But
No,
the, if he did swear, there's no excuse for it.
I will just call it a bullet dodged on Sandy's part.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, if I was that judge and he did that with me, the penalty would have been double. And if he did it again, it would have been triple. And if he did it again, he would have been done. And that you think
What
about that in that moment, these small decisions based on emotion that could have turned a day that ended up being an incredible, miraculous, great day for him into another shit show. And that's where you got to have that maturity to not do that.
No, you
But
are
in
right. And
essence, overall, if we take away that one moment, and without that, everything was just such an improvement on the mental game within that race. Because he could have crumbled, couldn't he? After
And
having so early in the race, he could have crumbled having to do that extra penalty,
yeah.
that extra bit of push, but it just fired him up even more, and off he went. It was brilliant.
And another situation too with Sandy at the end when his electronic gizmo malfunctioned,
Yeah,
he seemed like he kept it together. And that would have been another thing. And actually, almost we saw it with the rowers. That would have been another thing that could have set him off in the past. And he stuck with it. He went through it. Yeah. And I mean, we think back to the rowers and how Alex Ronkovich handled that situation compared to how Sandy handled it. And that's the difference. That was the same kind of technical problem that he didn't handle well last time. This time, he took it in
yeah.
stride and just kept going. And that was a big improvement. That showed a lot more maturity there.
But he's walked off from the wall balls before, hasn't he?
Yeah, and
At the
like second
European.
place with like 20 wall balls left or
No,
something like that.
yeah. And all that race is done. So, but when I saw it drop to zero, my
Mm.
heart sank. I thought, no, don't let this happen to him. He's got this far. Please don't let this happen to him. It just seems like whenever anything goes wrong, it goes wrong to the person who's less capable of dealing with it. But he did. He dealt with it amazingly. He didn't even falter, did he? He just carried on.
Yeah, he
He
carried
was like,
on.
I'm doing my 100 wall balls. I'm counting them. I know where I am. I'm going.
And that's what when I was watching, I was like, I hope these judges all have backup counters too, because
Yeah.
clearly there's still a glitch in the matrix on these things. So hopefully they still had the old school backup counters, and that's why they knew where he was. Because my hope was I think he had a head judge with him behind him that knew the count, but what did everybody else? And so I was just hoping that they're still using a backup counter as well.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely, Dave. And you're right, Emma, in terms of the old Sandy would have reacted a little bit differently to what we saw over the weekend. And again, I'm proud for him. I know we had a little bit of fun earlier with me saying, I don't think he said Man United, listener, for record. We had a little bit of fun there. I don't think he said that. He was obviously frustrated. Listen, I will say, go and have a read of his Instagram post, by the way, where he lays out exactly how his last year has gone and just read what he's dealt with and how vindicated he felt crossing that line. And Dave, while we're talking about the sled pull, I know we moved on to wall ball, but what did you think about the fact that they changed the penalty in the Elite 15? They did say before the race we are going to do it like this, but they made it so that if you had a 5 meter penalty in the old style, you had to do it almost instantly. You had to pull it 5 meters, then 5 meters back, so it's 10 meters. For this, they let Sandy finish, and then he pulled it at the end.
Okay, so my first question I have about this, and I have given this some thought. You said that they said this beforehand just for the Elite 15, correct?
They said it beforehand in the racing commentary, so
Okay.
it was clear as a rule that had been changed. It wasn't a decision on the fly.
Yeah, and that's great, and I'm okay with that. And that, to be honest, that rule needed to be fixed up, that penalty anyway, because it ended up stepping across the line just a little bit, which seemed a minor advantage, got you a major penalty. So when you had to go back, pull it 5, then go back, pull it back for another 5 is essentially a 10-meter penalty. And we saw what that happened to Alondra Greenlee the one year. It destroyed a race. So I don't mind. It didn't need to be changed. The problem I'm having with it right now is if it's just a one-off for this scenario, because if you start trying to implement that penalty in the mass participation events or age groups where you don't have as many judges at smaller events, there's not usually a judge for everybody there. So that means that one judge has to be responsible to assign penalties to everybody and then remember who had their penalty at the end and who has to serve it. And there could be literally hundreds of people going through. So it doesn't seem very practical there. I think they need to come up with a solution where the penalty can be done immediately, but where it's not quite so insane. Even if it's just a shuttle run all the way across and back, they'd be fine with that. You know, you stepped on the line twice, there you go, do your shuttle run across and back, you're good. Anything, because yeah, I can't see this working as a permanent solution to that penalty.
Oh, that's a good point. You just mentioned there about mass participation. We're talking about this issue with judges running after competitors when they have not finished their 100 wall balls.
Yeah.
And of course, the solution is to give them a timing chip penalty. But what's going to happen if that was implemented when it comes to mass participation? Because when the wall ball area is full, kind of the judge will have to make their way over to the end to say, oh, they didn't finish.
Yeah, yeah. And luckily at the wall balls, everybody usually has their own judge. So they can do that, but it'd be different on the sleds and such where they're you don't often have your own judge. I mean, in New York when I was there, I finished one of my polls and I came close to the line and I looked around to see if the judge was going to call me on it and I couldn't find a judge. So it's not a solution for there. It's great and it worked good in this particular occasion. And if that wants to be a championship rule and penalty, I'm fine with it. I just think they need to come up with a better way for the general everyday. And if you come up with a better way for the general everyday, you might as well just leave that one in.
Right, exactly. And getting back to the race as a whole, Emma, Sandy had that setback, but then he stormed back, didn't he?
Yeah, it was really good to see. And going back to what you said about the post, I see that Sandy 2.0 has been created, and I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Um, he did come back, and he just kept on, a bit like Lauren did in the ladies' race. He was just like, nobody is taking this away from me, not even my own head. I'm carrying on, and I'm just grinding it out. It was really good to see, really good to see. And he was moving so fast that Dave, you brought this up on the podcast last week. You said if Sandy turns up as the athlete, people are in trouble.
Yeah.
And Alexander did not get that event, that world championship title handed to him because Hunter wasn't on form. Alexander earned that because he was being pushed. He was chasing Sandy, then Sandy was pushing him. It was brilliant to watch. It was a great race. Loved it.
The level of attack by Sandy was off the chart.
Yeah.
He was full attack mode. And again, he was checkers or wreckers. He's like, I'm gonna give everything I had. And it was amazing. And Alex, to his credit, needed to have a Herculean effort to hold off. And he did. He did. I mean, Alex was great as no one is surprised. But yeah, Sandy took it to him and gave him everything he had. There was no
Well,
way.
if we look at Michael's race, so he was second on the ski erg, first on the sled push, fifth on the sled pull. Obviously, we know why. Fourth, still fifth on the sled pull with extra meters, by the way. Yeah, that's amazing. Still under 4 minutes with extra meters. burpee broad jumps fourth, row first, farmers carry first, sandbag lunges fifth. He made massive ground up on the sandbag lunges. He was brilliant, wasn't he, on
Mm.
those? You saw him coming, and then wall ball six, which, there's no surprise there really in terms of everything that went on. But his running was brilliant, just so consistent all the way through. It was fast and consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, what was his fastest lap? 3:33, which would have probably been his, no, 3:33. Best run lap, 3:33.
which is rapid in
Yeah.
a race like this. And he did build up the lead heading into the wall balls, but sadly for him, it just wasn't enough because, as was pointed out to me by John Stevenson, Alex was doing 3 wall balls to every 2 that Sandy was, and that became the difference maker. Ignore the dodgy screen. Alex came in behind, and credit to Alex's mindset. We've talked a lot about Sandy's mindset, but Alex's mindset was, I can still win this. And he absolutely did, didn't he, Dave?
Yeah, well, we knew, and credit to the live stream there, where they just flash up on the screen Sandy's average wall ball time and then Alex's average wall ball time, and just showing kind of how much of a lead Sandy would need to hold Alex off. And that was a really cool stat. And we knew Alex could go unbroken, so we knew that the lead was not big enough that Sandy could do anything but unbroken and hold it. Yeah, so Sandy would have had to go unbroken and still maybe couldn't hold it because Alex's, his cadence of wall balls is just faster. Whether that's he just squats quicker or whatever the case may be, his cadence is just faster. So yeah, Sandy would have had to, I don't think even if Sandy went unbroken, he could hold the lead. He needed a little more, a little more.
He did,
And
but
also physiologically, look at them. When
Mhm.
it comes to wall balls, people, Sandy obviously is a great row. Levers, height, weight, all that kind of thing. When you come to wall balls, it shouldn't make a huge amount of difference, but it does. It makes a little bit of difference. And when you're looking at these incremental gains that you need, and when seconds are in between, the decision of who gets world champion and who doesn't, the seconds count, don't they? So Alexander was second behind on wall balls. Second, who was he second to on wall balls? Guess. Come on.
Um, James Kelly. No?
Graham Halliday.
Graham Holiday. Oh, Graham
Graham
Holiday.
Halliday, of course, of
Yes,
course.
yes.
Who else would it be? Uh,
That makes
you
sense.
you mentioned James Ver. Let's give a shout out to James. We probably can't go through his race in great detail, but James kind of did a mini Lauren Weeks in that he wasn't in the race for parts of it, or at least he wasn't on screen a lot. And then he got to the lunges and he overtook Hunter and he took third place. So what a season James had. He had to come in via the last chance qualifier. So again, so happy for James and Paleo as well. Dave, you deserve credit for shouting out Paleo because he overtook Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, Paleo, like you said, when he can use his running, he's great. And I do think that the sleds being a little bit not as difficult as they used to be really favor him. James Kelly executed his race perfectly. I don't think he got caught up in what anybody else was doing. He's just like, I know what I need to do to run my best race, and that's what I'll do. And that's what he did. And he's like, I know I can run a great time if I run this way. So he didn't get caught up in that mass start or that team attack on Hunter. He just did his thing and ran through. So he was super smart and played it well. Yeah, Paleo just we got the Paleo there that was ready to go and that could use his running as a weapon, and he weaponized his running and off he went. He
Right.
when he was still in the mix after the sleds, he's going to be dangerous then, and he was.
He did so well. And big shout out to Hunter as well for the fact that the race didn't go how it was meant to for him. He was obviously struggling on some of the runs and he finished.
Mhm.
I mentioned it last week on the show that Hunter has had a history of also deciding, look, the race isn't worth the candle. And well done to Hunter. And as you said, Emma, for all that he did after in congratulating people and on socials. We'll leave the men's race there. Let's,
Can I just say one more
of
thing,
course you can,
Ian?
Emma.
Because James Kelly, he was 14th in the sled,
Yeah.
came 14th. What did he do? He went out and on the burpee broad jumps, won that station. He did not let the fact that he came 14th and was obviously trailing a bit after the sled pull affect him. He went out and he absolutely smashed the burpee broad jumps and then ran a 340 and then a 354 on the runs. And that's mental preparation, isn't it? It
Did
is
you
mental. It's
did you
somebody with a
see
really
this?
strong mental game to be
Did
able
you
to
see
do that.
the
He just
yeah,
didn't let it bother him.
sorry. Did you see the speed he ran out of the lunges with?
Yeah.
Like
And he
after
won that as well.
yeah, when you're after the lunges, your legs are cooked and you're rubber, and he got faster. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Can we
it
give
was
a shout?
well deserved.
Can we give a shout out, by the way, to James's coach, to Anthony Parasini, who's done a great job, and also he's coaching Kate Davey as well. And Kate, we didn't even talk about her during the women's section of the show, but she had a great race as well. She came sixth overall, and at times she was in second place just behind Meg. So I will say, listener, keep an eye out for the hybrid engine stable of athletes because they are doing something over there. So keep an eye on them. Right, let's talk about the relay. We did have our predictions. I'm going to leave them to the end, but let's talk about the relay. We'll probably spend, famous last words, 10 minutes or so talking about the mixed relay. Um, I'm just going to throw it out there. Emma, what did you think of the mixed relay?
I thought it was brilliant. It's been the best event of the whole weekend. I absolutely loved watching it. Yeah, it was great. And obviously, we know who won. Let's not go into that too much, but yeah, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And I loved seeing all those great athletes against one another. And I like seeing the men against the women as well, that out there on the track racing against each other, and you don't know how things are going to go, do you? There is a chance that the men are going to overtake the ladies on some of the stations, and in your head as a female at that stage, you've got to keep thinking to yourself, doesn't matter what they're doing, because the next station we might have a man against a woman on theirs, so I thought it was absolutely incredible, and it all came down to strategy, didn't it? It all came down to who do you put on which station and how does it all work.
Yeah,
Loved
let's
it.
talk about strategy first, and then we'll talk a little bit about Team USA as well, because there is a talking point there. But listener, I'm sure you've watched it, but Team England was successful. Team USA were in second place, and Team Germany were in third place. In terms of tactics, Dave, Team England went male racer, male racer, female racer, female racer. A lot of the others went male racer and then female racer for the sled push. By doing it the way Team England did, that gave them, I think, at one point, we had like a 45-second lead on the chasing pack. What did you think of them tactics?
Well, I think at the time it made the lead look like it was a lot more than it was. Because in the end of the day, when it comes down to the wall balls, that's the only real time when you really, really know what's going on. Because the rest of the time you're doing this calculating, okay, who's gone, who hasn't gone for them, who hasn't gone for them, who's this, and that. And beforehand, I think there was a lot of stations I think you could switch either way depending on who you have on your team. But in my mind, in the beginning, the most important strategy was probably to have men on the ergs and
Yeah.
women on the wall balls. That seems to be, and then the rest seemed to be a little more, you could play with it a little bit more. And as long as, like I said, England did that, and that's what they did. They had Sandy was on the row, was he not? And then the
Yeah,
other
Jake was on the ski.
Jake was on the ski. So I think they did a good strategy. I don't think they did anything killer different from anybody else. I think they had great athletes and they were allowed to shine. They were put in position allowed to shine. And I thought the women ran so well. Like they really, really put down the good foot speed and did a great job.
They did. Let's actually shout out Team Italy as well, who came in fourth place.
Mhm.
And what was fascinating to me was Hunter started the race for Team USA, as many would have expected. And Team England and Team Italy put their speedsters out there because we had Jake Williamson. Because as I was watching the race, at first I couldn't see Jake Williamson, who I know is fast, and they were panning back. He was actually about 10, 15 meters ahead of the entire pack,
Hmm.
which I had thought was the lead. And again, I think that probably helped just get a few of the other teams outside their comfort zone. Of course, Eugenio, we know he's a fab racer as well. So I think it was a stroke of genius to put your speedster straight away, go and set the pace. What do you think, Emma?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously the person who went out first has got to do the ski, and anybody, unless you've got some superhuman female, anybody would put them the best male on the ski. But yeah, putting somebody out there that's going to go out there and exhaust people, make because it's that first run, isn't it? It's the first run. Everybody's adrenaline's high. You're thinking, I've got to get back in first, destroy them on the run, make them keep up with you, and then you dying on the ski. So yeah, I thought it was a really good strategy. Really good strategy. I don't think they probably even thought about the male, male, female, female. I think that's just how it fell. I think it's more a case of we put our best athletes where it matters the most. Because there's no point
Uh,
if you've got a difference of seconds in the burpees between one athlete and another, that doesn't really matter. You need to make the time up where you can. Camilla Massa on the sleds
Yeah.
destroyed it. Absolutely. It's like she got a hydraulic pulling it. I was like, where's she finding that strength from? As we were watching it just gliding like butter across the carpet. She was unbelievable.
no, absolutely. The thing that surprised me a little with Team England is I actually expected the back half to be slightly different. I was expecting Jake on the farmers, Zara on the lunges because she's very good at the lunges. I thought Kate was going to finish on the wall balls, but they kind of switched it. I'm not sure if Kate was feeling a little bit tired because she looked a bit tired during the farmers. Kate, I think you're a great athlete, but she did look a little bit tired on the farmers, and she was doing her third race of the weekend. For those of you who don't know, Kate and Zara, after doing the Elite 15, then won the women's doubles overall. So completely overall, the morning of the race. So it surprised me a bit that they went with Jacob Lunges, but he did well. He actually beat Tobias, Emma, when it came to
Yeah.
timing, which
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Uh, can we talk about that finish? Because the one thing you do not want to be as someone doing wall balls is having Meg chasing you down,
Just hunting.
just
Yeah.
hunting, and knowing Meg can go unbroken. And I'm not sure if Zara has ever gone unbroken. Zara, if you have, I apologize. I just wasn't aware. But watching her, seeing Meg, knowing Meg will go unbroken, and just digging down deep, would you say, Emma?
Yeah, also, I think maybe Zara hasn't gone unbroken in a competition before. Maybe she hasn't. I don't know either. But to go, a lot of them can do it unbroken without it being at the end of a race. Lots of people can do 100, not lots. A few people can do 100 wall balls unbroken in a gym environment after they've run 1K, for example, but then put it all together in a race. So if Zara knew she could do 100 wall balls unbroken, then great. That's probably why they put her in there. But you know what I loved about it was that she just held a nerve. It was like nobody was around her. She must have known that Meg was next to her. You're going to feel that presence. You're going to feel it. She didn't take her eye off that target. She kept on going the same rhythm all the way through, and she just knew that if she just lost that concentration for a second, Meg would take it. That Meg would be in there. She didn't. She just carried on. I thought she was amazing. It's brilliant. Meg was great, and Meg did what we expected she would probably do: 100 wall balls unbroken with a perfect rhythm. Zara just kept going. She didn't let anything affect her. Just absolutely amazing.
No, I think I said this to someone that Meg was catching Zara, and if it was 200 or 250 wall balls, it would have been a different story. But because of the work of the team beforehand, Meg was catching Zara, and if it was 200 or 250 wall balls, it would have been a different story. But because of the work of the team beforehand, to give Zara that head start, it was enough, wasn't it, Dave?
Oh yeah, and mental strength. I think she put the blinders on. Like Emma said, she just looked straight ahead. There's like no one beside me. There's the target. There's the squat. I'm just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And the fact, like you said, Meg was ticking off, getting slowly closer and closer and closer and closer. And she didn't let it phase her. That was just the kind of mental fortitude and focus that it took. And anything less wouldn't have made it. So she did exactly what she needed to do. It was great. It was really an incredible performance.
It was great to watch and great to Team England. Emma,
Meg did those wall balls in 3 minutes and 5 seconds. 3 minutes and 5 seconds. And let's just have a look. Zara's wall balls, 3 minutes and 17 seconds.
She made
She
it
was on
12 seconds.
fire.
wow.
So she came fifth overall in the walk. They must have been, quite close, the top five, but 3 minutes and 17 seconds, and she didn't falter, did she? But
No,
Meg, that is absolute 3 minutes and 7 seconds, 5 seconds,
That's
absolute
why she's your
fire.
absolutely.
world champ.
Yeah. And Jake
Yeah,
Williamson did the fastest sandbag lunges of the day,
The other
two
thing
minutes
too,
23. And he did that run in 3 minutes and 17. He did his first run, 3 minutes 04, 1K in 3 minutes 04.
the other thing about
No, the
Zara
first
too,
run. Yeah, first one slightly
the other
less.
thing about Zara too, is she had all day to think about this. She knew she'd be on the wall balls against Meg. She knew that she'd be there. So this wasn't just like, oh, okay, I'm here and it is what it is. She had to think about this beforehand going in that situation of me versus Meg, one on one on these wall balls have to be there and I have to be ready to perform. That takes toughness.
Yeah.
really, really does. Can we just talk, Dave, about the slight change to Team USA, which will probably be talked about a lot, in that we had a Lauren substitution in the team, because originally it was meant to be Lauren Weeks.
Hmm. Yeah. So first off, I want to say hats off to Lauren Rentala, who jumped in there unexpected and actually really did really well. Is she Lauren Weeks? No, she's not. But no, well, other than Meg, nobody is. So hats off to her. She did really well. And all you can say really about it is that, injuries and substitutions are part of the game and it happens. And you can only beat who shows up on that day. And it is what it is. And I mean, not just USA. Let's talk about Germany. I mean,
Yeah.
Germany took a big hit there. Not that Tobias and I'm sorry, I can't remember the other gentleman's name. Not that they're bad. They're really damn good substitutions. But they weren't the ones they originally had, and they still pulled out a third place. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a dangerous team.
Yeah. It was.
Can we shout out then Linda Meyer and Viola as well there? Because Emma, I'm sure you'll have more on this, but they were phenomenal through their workout stations.
Hmm.
Yeah. They were just going back to Lauren from the USA team though. She did the farmer's carry, didn't she? I can't remember the other station that she did,
I believe she
but
was sled
she
push.
sled push. So farmer's carry, before she did the farmer's carry, she ran a 3:52 1K.
Yeah,
That's incredible. And then she came eighth in the farmer's carry. Um, and she did that. What did she do? The sled push?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, before that, she ran a 3:40 1K.
yeah, yeah. Lauren is no slouch. I mean, she's been around High
Yeah,
Rocks a long time, and anyone who knows High Rocks knows Lauren Rentala. And it's the next best Lauren you could have got.
she was
Like,
brilliant,
yeah,
absolutely
she did great. And
brilliant.
again, talk about mental toughness coming into saying, okay, one of the best in the world's not available, so you're gonna have to take their spot.
Yeah. And
Big, big shoes to fill, and she did admirably. And so hats off to you, Lauren. Well done.
and going to Viola and Linda, Viola won the farmer's carry.
Mm.
She always Viola always looks like she's hating life during everything that every part of Hyrox. But she loves it and she always pulled it out the bag. But yeah, 134 for the farmer's carry, 3:38 for her 1K. And then on the wall balls, Linda did her wall balls in 3:17, the same as Zara. So she must have been tenths of a second just behind Zara because she came sixth and Zora was fifth.
Yeah.
That's how close those wall balls were. But they did amazing. So Tobias did the lunges for Germany, didn't he?
He did.
He ran a
Yeah.
3:24 before he did that, and then he did the lunges in 2:40, which put them in ninth place. Sorry, that was a ninth place for that one. But if you lose two of your key members and Tobias is one of the people replacing them, you're not going to complain, are you? Because he is. Look what he did on Friday night. He didn't know he was going to be in a situation where he was picking up a place in the Elite 15. Um, yeah, unbelievable.
No,
Germany
unbelievable.
could have, Germany could, all things being equal, Germany would have been a massive competitor to the USA.
I think
But
you could have ran that race 10 times and had 10 different podiums.
yes, yeah, yeah, that's a
It,
very good point, Dave.
Yeah. And
Um,
while we giving some flowers as well, I think the biggest unexpected, because obviously Team Italy came third, but they had two Elite 15 athletes in there.
I thought they
The
came
they came fourth.
fourth.
They came fourth.
fourth, beg your pardon, Germany came
Yeah,
third. Italy came fourth overall. Belgium in fifth place was a surprise to me, and well done to them. But then I had a little bit of a look into their team, and I do think, although these are all Hyrox athletes, it also helps. We were talking on the preview show about having specialists, if you remember, Dave.
Yep.
You have the Van den Lindenhoef sisters in there. One of them is a excellent CrossFitter. The other one is a track and field star.
Mhm.
So great choices by them. Well done to Team Belgium, because if you ask people to say their top five, with the greatest of respect, who would have put Belgium in there?
Yeah. 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 It would not have been one I would have called.
no,
It wasn't for me, but well done to them. But Dave, as you say, you could have run that race how many times and got how many different results. But what do we see as the future of this, by the way? Obviously, it'll be clean back, but could we see a mass market version of it like we see in the OCR Worlds, where they also allow an age group version where people put together their own team? Dave, what do you reckon?
I would love that. I'm just trying to think of it from a logistical standpoint. Like I think people would eat it up. I would eat it up. I'd be down for it. Yeah, throw me on an over 50 team in a couple of years anyway. But like, yeah, but logistically, it would be difficult to run, because I mean, how they needed that area completely cleared out to run this race. So then if you started doing age groups, you need again to clear it out again. Like the relay takes up a lot of space and a lot of issues. So I don't know. I don't know if it's really super feasible, but I mean, maybe I hope so. I would love for it to happen.
Emma?
I think it'd be brilliant because I just love the whole concept of a relay and teamwork. I come from a team sports background, so for me, anything that involves team stuff is just my cup of tea. I think it'd be a great way to get more people involved, particularly if it filters down. But logistically, like Dave says, can they do it? They'd have to put a separate day on for it because there'd be that much, a whole day, there'd be that much interest in it. And it's not like OCR World's teams race where you're up on a mountain or you're out in a field somewhere where there's loads and loads of space and you're
Yeah.
racing across things. Yeah, so it would be logistically, it would be difficult. Would I want to see it? Absolutely, I would. And also, can we just maybe talk about the team that had the most fun out there? Because they all look like they were having great fun, but I think there's some teams that literally just went out there with the biggest smiles on their faces the whole time. It was like, I'm representing my country. I'm here to give it a go and do my best, and I'm going to love every minute of it.
By all means, any team in particular catch your eye, Emma?
Well, no, because some of the people I didn't know who they were. They were moving that fast. I missed the flags on. Who? What happened with Scotland? Who? Somebody announced as Graham Halliday and one of the team's dads or something. There was five people. What was that
Yeah,
situation?
they just had one of their dads ran out with them.
Yeah,
They were having a good time.
it was just brilliant.
can I just say that that mini parade of nations at the start of that team event was another highlight. I absolutely love that. That was so cool because they let the teams do whatever they wanted. You know, of course, Team USA came out looking like superheroes. Free Captain Americas. But uh, you had some choreography. Sorry, I can't say that word at this moment. Emma,
Choreography.
Choreography.
you're there. We go. But yeah, you had some really great teams having a lot of fun. Shout out to Team Korea as well for sticking it out and finishing the race. Obviously, they came in massive underdogs because they don't have a lot of Hyrox yet, and they were one of them teams. Emma, they looked so happy during the entire
Yeah.
race. I am a big fan of them. I hope to see them again next year. And thinking about the future of a relay, hopefully this race encourages both higher ups and competitors to do it more because at the moment it does sometimes feel like it's tacked on at the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
It's always the last thing that happened. Now that it's shown it can be a marquee event in its own right, hopefully it will just grow and grow because I love doing my relay. My relay was one of the highlights of my High Rocks career. Dave, you're probably the same, and Emma, you're probably the same.
I've only ever
Honestly.
run doubles and stuff for Hyrox. I just I love the teamwork stuff and obviously in my DECA career I've done tons and tons of two-person relays. It's two things I want, or maybe not two, but a couple things I wanted to address. One, did Korea actually finish because they're not showing in the standings? So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was wondering whether they finished, and they were doing so well because on the ski they came in around fourth position, didn't they, off the run or something?
Oh,
I think it was about
he came. That
fourth or
dude was
fifth.
running fast. He was running,
Yeah,
but he
it's
did this.
flying.
But I will say they were definitely the Jamaican bobsled team of the race. Like, and if you don't know the
Yeah.
Jamaican bobsled team reference, go watch Cool Runnings. Um, it I loved the uniforms, the outfits. And when you say Team USA came in looking like Captain America, our team Canada actually adopted the Team Canada track and field uniforms. So they wore exactly Team Canada track and field uniforms. So that was good to see. But I think the smartest team was Team Ireland, who got a sponsor to sponsor the. That's how it's done. And that's actually one thing this team thing can bring in is people will see that and go, hey, we could have had our team out there. We could have had our team Subaru or team whatever, out there. People are watching, people are paying attention. You know, uh, that I think that provides more chance for even more sponsorships than regular races. And by the way, people who race without the shirt off, so you're missing advertisement and sponsorship opportunities. Just saying. Because now they've
Uh,
limited the amount of tattoos you can have, but they haven't said anything about the
Yeah.
shirts yet.
that's true. Big shout out to Ram and to McNeil's who sponsor the Irish team. So very smart on Team Ireland. Team Ireland did okay. I think they finished around mid-table, but it was great watching that. I loved watching Barry Watkins in the rower because, of course, he has a background. He's only done one high rocks, and he has a background in rowing. So it was fascinating to see how he got on. Right, moving away from relay, nothing more to say as I look to wrap things up.
No, I could go on about the relay for days. I love it, but whatever.
Maybe we do a podcast about the relay sometime.
Oh,
Maybe we do
yeah.
another one about not this relay, but just relay generally. We'll revisit that.
I have to get
Right.
one thing in or I'm going to get in big trouble. People doing coverage, the cameraman, the producers, stop focusing on people dying on the stage when there's wicked races still going on.
Yeah, yeah,
Drives
I
me up
agree.
the wall. I'm like, yes, great. They're finished. They're awesome. They're hugging. They're great. There's awesome races going on, and I'm watching these people hug. I can watch that after. Let me watch the race now. Even do picture in picture, screens, whatever. That's great, but don't deny me watching the race to watch other people celebrate. And the
Yeah, I
audience.
think
Stop
that's
panning to the
valid.
audience. I want to see the race.
Yeah, I think that's valid. Right, I'm going to wrap up with the prediction contest, by the way.
Oh.
Emma, sorry.
I've got one more thing to say before we go on to the prediction contest. Let's talk about drugs testing, just very briefly.
Okay,
So
by all
drugs.
means.
So we had that announcement, didn't we? That
Mhm.
there was going to be some compliance with the regulations. As far as I'm aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, as far as I'm aware, where they're stating they are going to test one, two, and three, and then a random, the
Yes.
people that cross the line, one, two, and three, immediately in any competition, in any race, we're not just talking about Hyrox, we're talking about drugs testing compliance, have to have a drugs tester with them and they don't leave their side until they've provided their sample. I didn't see anybody. I was rechecking and rechecking the wobbles on video rewind. So I perhaps missed it. So correct me if I'm wrong, because that has always been my understanding, unless the regulations have changed, unless there's a different way of doing it. But I didn't see any drug testers stood with Megan, with Lauren. I mean, I know let's move the ladies aside because obviously they didn't know at that stage who was second, third, and fourth anyway. But the guys, they came off and all sat down together. They weren't handed a pea pot, just what's the situation? Does anybody know?
I don't, but I will say that that area, as you know, the finishes area is heavily regulated in terms of who can come in and who can come out of it. So my presumption is they were off camera, and before they left the area, that's when they would have been picked up. Dave, do you know anything that I don't?
No, I don't. But this was something I questioned beforehand was who is handling the drug tests, who's administering the drug tests and that all. Because although they said they were going to comply with WADA standards, they did not say who, if it was an independent third party or if they'd
Yeah.
be doing it themselves. And that makes a big difference. You are right, Emma. Like there's at the end of the race, when you are doing drug testing, that person's supposed to be taken right away and
Yeah.
off you go. I have not heard from any of the athletes I've talked to if they were tested or not. But I haven't, I have, so I don't know. Could be either way. Um, I just, yeah, it's something to be looked at.
I
Yeah, but
am
I just always
aware.
think if you're going to do something and say you're going to do it, you do it properly. You do it and you follow
Yeah.
what you said you're going to follow. Just didn't see any evidence of anyone being around. And I get what you're saying, Ian. It's heavily regulated, that stage is. But in other competitions and other races where there's been compliance with water drug testing and it's the person's been there with them straight away and then they can come back and celebrate. So
No, I can understand. I am aware that there was definitely a room because I did see photos of social media of the room for testing. So I have seen a room that was cordoned off, which I believe was restricted access. So I am aware of that. But as for the mechanics, I need to go back and find out. And like you say, Dave, speak to some of the athletes, find out. Yeah, it's not something any of the athletes would probably say straight away anyway, because it is a little bit of a personal thing. Let's be honest. But yeah, when all the hoopla of the weekend has all passed, it will be something I will reach out to the athletes and just find out what it was like. Predictions. Anyone, any clue as to who likely won?
I was
I think
confident going in, but I don't know.
I think it's Dave that's won. You got some good you
I had great women. I had great women. But I don't know. I don't know with that was with Sandy doing so well. That could really throw a wrench in it.
and Ian got Alexander Wongvik as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he had
And
good ones.
Vivian. He got
Yep,
Vivian.
yep. So
I think I'm last because I lost two of my people.
yeah, and Ian did lose one of his as well. So oh, you had lose both? Oh, I thought Ian lost one and you lost one.
I lost Tim and Lucas and who had Ryan.
Oh, I had Ryan, so I lost Ryan. Yeah.
So you lost Ryan.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's it. I think Ian got it.
Yeah, to explain how I did the scoring, I basically went 1 to 15 for each athlete. So, for example, Meg got 1 point,
Mhm.
and we went all the way. In the case of Ancha and Rich Ryan, I just put them at 15th place. I know they didn't finish the race, but it made sense if I was doing scoring this way to just give them 15, which is the final
Did
one.
Rich Ryan not
No,
finished
no,
the
he
race?
means Ryan Kent. He means Ryan Kent.
Ryan Kent.
I beg your pardon. Sorry, wrong
Yeah,
Ryan.
sorry. I was
Right,
going to
Ryan
say, I
Kent.
thought he
Sorry,
finished.
Rich.
He definitely thinks he's not liked now,
Yeah,
Ian,
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
after what
sorry,
Dave
Rich.
said last
You
time.
you are like, but yeah, that's how I went with it. It's how I've gone traditionally. In the ladies, Dave, you had 38 points.
Mhm.
So low point win. Emma, you had 40 and I had 42.
Oh, this is
Okay.
close.
So
Wow.
very close in the ladies. In the men, I was really helped by how well, obviously, I got the top two. I was really helped by the fact that I also had Hunter and by how well Thomas Turdick did because he finished
Yeah.
11th and he was my lowest man. The other gentleman I had was Bo Wills, who got 8th. So in the men, I only had 27 points.
Ooh.
Dave, you had 45. Emma, you had 48. So overall, I had 69 points to win. Dave, you got 83 second, and Emma, you were 88 third place.
There you go.
I really was helped by the fact of how well Sandy did, and the fact I had Hunter and Alex, of course, which many would have predicted. And also Kate as well. Kate did well
He did
for me
fantastic.
as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Emma,
I
your
was
best.
I was saddled with too many American men.
That actually might explain it. But yeah, Emma, you did really well in the women. In fact, you had Viola, you had Camilla, and you had Zara.
No, I didn't have
No,
Camilla.
you
I
didn't.
had
You didn't
Linda.
I
have
had
Camilla.
Camilla.
You had Camilla. Beg your pardon. Let me go back and just double check. You were because you had Linda and because you had Viola, and you also had Amy.
Amy.
Amy was a great choice for you as well because she was 7th overall. That's how you did so well in the women. Dave, of course, you had top two, so
Yeah.
that was always going to do well for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what did you do with me losing Tim and Lucas? Did you just give me the people that replaced them?
Yeah, you got Tobias, so you got
Tough
his
break.
6 points. Tough break there, Emma. And you
Yeah.
also got Colin, who was arguably the second best American, I believe. I'd need to double check that, but
I
he
think
finished
Dylan. I think
12th.
Dylan ended up second, but I think Dylan got 10th, I think.
Dylan was 10th, yeah. So Colin was in the middle of the Americans, so he didn't do too shabby for you either.
By the way, another guy, like when he got on the plane, he was an age group. When he landed, he was in the Elite 15.
Exactly.
Bless
And
him.
listener, once again, this is a bumper episode, particularly this last half. Thank you all for staying with us, and I hope you've enjoyed this, particularly when you're doing your long run. Emma, before we wrap things up, anything to say? Any final thoughts?
Just what an amazing weekend it's been watching it all unfold. It's been a really great weekend and it looks like everybody's had so much fun. So yeah, and thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for coming on. Dave, any final thoughts?
Yeah, even though we nitpick and we have complaints and all that stuff, I was glued to the screen the whole time and absolutely enthralled. It was amazing competition. And Hyrox, for the most part, did a great job on the stream. And well, yeah, okay, anyway, they did a great job on the stream, and I was completely wrapped up in it. We were on the edge of our seats on the couch during the end of all the races. So, I mean, it's hard to ask for more.
It looks
Yeah,
spectacular as well, didn't it? They've
It really
leveled
did.
up again this
It
year.
really did.
That walkthrough, the whole event area, just that it's gone up a level. If we compare it to 2 years ago in Las Vegas,
Yep.
what's it going to be like in 2 years' time? So congratulations to Hyrox.
well done to Hyrox. Before I wrap it up from my point of view, I will say if you don't already, click that subscribe button wherever you listen, and think about leaving us a review on the various podcast apps. They do make a difference, if only to prove to me that there are people out there listening. So drop us a review, drop us a subscribe. If you want more of Dave, then check out the OFX podcast. He is there each and every week. He also is on Hybrid Fitness Media every so often on their Tuesday episode of we get it in the UK, or if you're in the States, you can watch it live on the Hybrid Fitness Media YouTube. Emma, of course, is part of Team MyZone. If you don't already have a MyZone, then where have you been these last 3 or 4 years? Go out and get you one. It really is a fantastic piece of kit, and Team MyZone's cool. So make sure you follow them on the IG. Dave, remind everyone where they can find you on the IG.
I am ugly.dave. Nice and easy to find.
Okay, how can people find Team MyZone?
On team.myzone.
There we go. There we go. Right, and on that, I will say goodbye, Emma.
Goodbye, Ian. Goodbye, Dave.
Goodbye, Dave.
Take care.
And goodbye, listener. And I will speak to you all soon.